Hey, this is Aaron.
And Blake, we're AB Data.
Thanks for walking through this Alteryx Weekly challenge with us.
In this video, we're taking a look at weekly challenge number 216, the Big Five. The Big Five personality traits, also known as the five-factor model, is a taxonomy or grouping for personality traits. The dataset below contains responses from users who rated themselves on a scale from 1 to 5 for 50 questions in the 5 personality factors. Some questions are weighted positively, some are negatively. We're going to take the score for each of the 5 factors and then adjust them according to these rules. So looking at our data, it looks like we've got all of the answers listed out from each of our people, along with some extra data off to the right here that we'll end up not needing down the road. So we'll just drop that off here shortly. And so our first piece of input table. The second is a code for each question, and then the text of the question, starting with I. And then we have a listing of the questions here, but you'll notice that even though they're split up by each of the factors they go with, they do not have I space at the beginning. So we'll have to deal with that here in a minute, but we will deal with that shortly. For our output, we're looking to just create a summary for each of the users based on each of the big 5 personality traits. And we'll get to that shortly. The first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to toss on a record ID tool. I like to toss on a record ID tool on nearly all of my workflows. It gives me a single source of truth that I can use to make sure that I can get my data back into the shape that it started in. I'm going to use the select tool here to deselect that extra stuff from the right side of the data set that I told you about earlier. But I actually don't need this select tool. I can just use it once to train my transpose tool. And then I want to use my user as a key field, my record ID as a key field. But now that I've already selected the fields that I really do want to transpose here, I can go ahead and uncheck my dynamic or unknown columns and then just delete that select tool, and the transpose will function like my select tool here. So I have 9,900 records that are being transposed, turning into 9,900 records anyway, from our original 99. And then I'm going to join that against our question code lookup table just to match the codes to the questions and get those started set up. I'll see that I have these ones that have the underscore E are falling out of the left side of the join. I actually don't even know what that data means. I just know that it doesn't match up, and so I'm not worried about it because it's not included in my lookup table. I do want to trim off that I space from the beginning of the question like I mentioned earlier so that we can have a nice clean join with our lowest data table here, our third input, the personality factor questions. Again, I tossed on a record ID, but I actually don't need the record ID, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Just a tool that I thought I might need down the road. Turns out I don't. Alteryx allows us to easily iterate. I'm going to first trim and lowercase my field for all the data that's here, and then I'm going to create what I call a direction and a factor field that will allow me to make sure that I'm applying the right magnitude to my value, and then also classifying all my questions according to which factor they belong to. Now I'm going to go ahead and join my questions together. So I'm going to take my question from the left and my information from the right, where I have a question that's now been tagged with the proper direction and conscientious factor. Or I'm sorry, and the proper factor. So once we do that join, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we get our value set up properly so that it's either negative or positive. We're going to multiply by -1. And we're also going to trim factor off the end of our factor field. So if it's negative times -1, and then here, let's see some of these negative fields. There you go. And then our factor's been trimmed. So I'm going to cross-tab this, and this is really in the shape that it needs to be. So I could take this data and I could do my adjustments based on the table up at the top with 5 different expressions and formulas, but I don't want to do the same thing over and over again 5 times. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently than probably most people handle this. Most people probably handle this with a formula. I'm going to transpose my data, join it back to that little lookup table, the adjustment lookup table that I've created, and do my math there in 1 expression rather than in 5. So it also makes the solution a little bit more dynamic as well. So I'm grabbing my adjustment lookup table, and I just copy and pasted that text into a text input. I'm going to use a regex tool to split it out so that we've got the name of our factor in one field. I'm calling that group. We have our adjustment amount, and then we have whether it is positive or negative. So good stuff here. I want to go ahead and lowercase the group so that it's easy for me to join on that based on my original data. And so I'm going to do that here, join, and now I've got my value and my adjustment. And I'm going to write a real quick conditional formula here that is going to, oh, excuse me, sorry about that. Let's go back and just see that I'm joining on that group and name. And now I've got my adjustment off to the right. So now we are going to take our value and we're going to adjust it, and we're going to say if our field has a plus sign, then we're going to say the adjustment plus the value. Otherwise, we're just going to say the adjustment minus the value, which is going to be that minus 38 that we get. We're going to go ahead and cross-form our data, or cross-tab our data one more time into the proper shape, join it up against a response just to make sure that we have 99 records coming to the out of the join, just like we have 99 records in the output. Everything looks good here. Thanks.
Thank you for learning with us today. Good luck on your Alteryx journey.
For more information on custom training, managed service automations, and more, please visit our website at abdataconsulting.com.